In the journey of human life, there are questions that seem simple yet can haunt us for a lifetime. Why is it that, being human alike, some children are born into palaces, living peacefully and comfortably, as though every door is already open without much effort? Meanwhile, other children come into the world with grave illnesses, grow up in poverty and deprivation, and face nothing but endless struggle? Is life truly unfair? Is destiny just a random game of creation? Or is there a deeper law behind what seems like coincidence, a law that only those with stillness of mind can perceive? The answer lies in two words: blessings. From ancient times, our ancestors always said, children inherit blessings from their parents, grandchildren inherit from their ancestors. Whether one believes it or not, this law silently operates. In the vast universe, nothing is random. Fortune or misfortune are results of causes and conditions planted in past lives, even many lifetimes ago, that ripen at the destined time. The ones who sowed those seeds are none other than our parents, grandparents, and forebears. There is a saying, to know what someone did in their past life, look at their life today. To know their future life, look at their actions now. If we want to understand why our children face good fortune or misfortune, we must ask ourselves, how did we live? What words did we speak? What deeds did we do in the years gone by? Often, children are the mirror reflecting the blessings or karmic debts of their parents. This truth is not only rooted in Eastern philosophy, but also acknowledged in major religions such as Buddhism and Christianity, and even modern psychology. The ancients taught, a family that accumulates virtue will surely have abundant happiness. A family that accumulates evil will surely face abundant calamity. This is not superstition, but the result of thousands of years of observing human life. Blessings are like an underground stream flowing through generations. If the family accumulates virtue, the water will be pure and nurturing. If the family continually creates evil, that flow becomes toxic, and descendants, no matter how hard they try, often face adversity. You may have seen families where 3 generations thrive. Grandparents did good deeds, parents lived kindly, and the children were born intelligent, prosperous, and filial. They not only appear lucky, but seem supported by an invisible hand. Conversely, some lineages suffer misfortune generation after generation. Illness, bankruptcy, accidents, even tragic deaths, as if trapped in a dark cycle. Is it really coincidence? A story from Hebei province, China, is proof. The Yang family lived virtuously for generations, building temples, constructing bridges, helping the poor, and saving those in danger. At first, they had no sons to continue the line, yet because the grandfather lit lamps at the temple daily, copied scriptures, and aided people, later he had 3 sons, each successful and distinguished. But by the time of his grandson, one fell into drinking, gambling, and immoral business. Within 10 years, the family wealth was gone, and the lineage collapsed. Villagers said the ancestors' blessings were not yet exhausted, but disaster had already begun. Blessings are an invisible inheritance, but they can be depleted if not preserved. In Buddhist teachings, merit is not material wealth, but the fruit of virtuous actions accumulated across lifetimes. People often strive to accumulate money and gold, but neglect the most important task, accumulating virtue. Wealth left to children, if without blessings, vanishes quickly. But blessings, once passed on, will bring descendants benefactors, health, wisdom, and smooth paths in life. Many wealthy parents lament, I have resources, yet my child is rebellious, ungrateful, and refuses to study. Others, though kind and intellectual, grieve over children struck with illness or misfortune. Such things cannot be explained by ordinary logic. Sometimes parents in this life are virtuous, but ancestral debts remain unsettled, and children must bear them. Sometimes parents live kindly but still carry leftover karma from previous lives. The fortune of children is a synthesis of both blessings and burdens from the entire lineage, not just one person. Though this sounds harsh, the message is filled with hope. Every good deed you do today is not only for yourself, but also plants blessings for your children. Every cruel word, every deceitful act harms others and adds debt for future generations. That is why the ancients said, If you want your children to succeed, parents must first cultivate themselves and accumulate virtue. In the West, though the word karma is rarely used, psychology recognizes something similar: intergenerational transmission. Trauma, habits, values, and even psychological karma of parents unconsciously passed to children through words, behaviors, and emotions. An angry father may create timid or resentful children. An anxious mother may raise insecure children prone to mental illness. On the other hand, parents who live positively, lovingly, and kindly transmit peace and resilience to their children's lives. Blessings, therefore, are not random gifts from above, nor favors bestowed by chance. They are the result of generations of planting and nurturing. And each of us in the present, through our choices and actions, can either replenish or exhaust that inheritance. If today you refrain from wrongdoing, open your heart to help others, live sincerely and kindly, the reward is not only yours, but will also nourish your descendants. If today you pursue selfish gain through lies, greed, or cruelty, the cost may not come to you immediately, but your children will bear it one day. So instead of lamenting fate, start planting seeds of goodness today. Blessings are the only treasure you can both enjoy and pass down, and the only one no one can ever steal if you know how to cultivate it. Children, though not fully conscious of right and wrong, are spiritually sensitive. Those born into virtuous families naturally sense peace and grow with stability, while those raised amidst violence, deceit, and anger face far more obstacles. Parental virtue is like an invisible magnetic field enveloping children, shielding them from misfortune. Thus, when children encounter hardships, rather than blaming society, the education system, or circumstances, parents must look inward. Have we lived kindly enough? Are we free of jealousy and resentment? Do we still scold and rage? Have we ever sincerely helped someone without expecting repayment? All these seemingly unrelated acts are seeds silently shaping the harvest of blessings for our descendants. In the Taoist classic Taishan Ganying Pian, it is written, "A household that does good will have abundant joy. A household that does evil will have abundant calamity." This is the most just and precise operation of the universe. I often wonder why some parents live quietly without craving fame or wealth, simply content with a clear conscience. They are neither rich nor outstanding, yet their children grow into upright, kind, and responsible people. Meanwhile, others appear respectable, praised by society, but their children fall into vice and ruin. The more I observe, the more I realize the best feng shui for a child is not the direction of the house or astrological signs, but the virtue and morality of their parents. A compassionate father, a kind and gentle mother, this is the spiritual atmosphere that children breathe from birth. Never assume children don't understand. Their souls absorb everything. Their father's gaze, their mother's sigh, the way they treat others. I once knew a friend whose family was poor and uneducated. Yet his mother rose early every day to recite scriptures, and his father lived quietly, never quarreling with neighbors. He grew up in that kindness, not forced to excel, not pressured for high grades, only taught to be compassionate, trustworthy, and sincere. Later, he became successful, not because his parents gave him secrets of success, but because he was raised in a home filled with virtue, good energy, and humanity. Truly, blessings are not luck falling from the sky, but the sweet fruit of small deeds parents quietly plant. Perhaps today you helped someone without expecting return. Yesterday you forgave one who wronged you. Though unseen, these acts silently add to the treasury of your family's blessings. People often say, being a parent is not only about feeding your child with food and clothing, but also about nurturing them with the character you plant in their heart. Every time we lose our temper without reason, our child witnesses it. Every time we lie or manipulate, our child imitates. Every time we step up to protect the weak, our child remembers. Parents are the very first living book a child reads, and that child grows up shaped by what they absorb, even if we never teach with words. I have met children who had nothing when they were born, yet their eyes carried a rare light, the light of virtue and blessing. They did not fear poverty or hardship because their hearts held the solid foundation passed down from their parents. Sometimes it was just a teaching like, never take what is not yours. Sometimes a simple meal shared with someone less fortunate. But such small things became the compass guiding them through life. On the other hand, there are wealthy and educated families filled only with competition, harsh words, and cold stares. Children from such homes grow up like rootless trees, easily toppled by life's storms. Without virtue, without family order, even billions left behind by parents cannot be kept for long. Blessing is not measured by wealth, but by moral character. A righteous father teaches his children integrity. A compassionate mother teaches her children love. But if parents live in dishonesty, cruelty, selfishness, and deceit, they should not wonder why their children fall into bad company, find no help, or fail at everything they attempt. Many believe blessings are heaven's gift, but I believe heaven does not scatter seeds randomly. Heaven only sows on worthy soil. If a family is fertile ground of morality and love, children will surely receive good seeds. But if parents live in anger, calculation, and deceit, they themselves plant disaster for their children. Even if you think this sounds spiritual, try observing with your heart. Families that live kindly usually raise kind children. A good child is the fruit of love and virtue, not of fear or pressure. This truth requires no belief, only sincere observation. That is why I always remind myself, every word, every action silently paints the destiny of my children. Live kindly, and your child will be sheltered by peace. Live with envy and cruelty, and your child will live under the shadow of that karma. It is not that heaven is unfair, but because the law of cause and effect is absolutely just. Above us, 3 feet away, the divine observes. But closer than that, right beside us, are our children. Do not only think of giving them good food or a good education. Think of whether you yourself lived kindly today, whether you planted a little more virtue for them. They may not inherit our careers, but they will surely inherit or bear the blessings or misfortunes we leave behind. I have met many people across all walks of life, workers, intellectuals, the rich, the poor. What struck me most was not the difference in wealth or education, but in the fate of their children, something reason alone cannot always explain. Some children born into poverty with hardworking parents seem almost protected by unseen benefactors. They learn easily, pass every exam, meet supportive mentors, and find help in hardship. Others, born into comfort with every investment, still become spoiled, ungrateful, or fail repeatedly. After years of observing, I believe the hidden root lies in the virtue and blessing of the parents. Virtue is invisible to the eye. It is like the very air a child breathes daily, even from the womb. Parents who live kindly, without scheming or hatred, who help others. Their righteous energy forms an unseen shield for their child, bringing protection, support, and love. I recall a small village in the northern mountains where a farming family lived for 3 generations. The grandmother had passed away, but her good name lingered. She had not done anything grand, only helped neighbors, preparing medicine for the sick, giving rice to the hungry. She lived frugally, her clothes patched, but never let anyone leave her home empty-handed. After her passing, her descendants' lives began to change. Her son moved from farming to becoming a building contractor. A grandchild of average ability won scholarships abroad. Villagers said, her children and grandchildren are blessed by her virtue. I believe her kindness became a protective shield of blessing. I also met a city family. The mother had quietly done charity for over a decade, even adopting an orphan despite her modest means. When her daughter was about to take university exams, she had an accident and nearly missed them. A stranger, once helped by the mother, stepped in, introduced a skilled doctor, and covered all medical costs. The daughter recovered and passed the exam to her dream school. These stories are not meant to glorify charity or encourage blind faith, but to highlight a quiet yet precise law of life, the law of karmic cause and effect. Parental virtue is a lifeline that rescues their children in times of peril. You may have heard this saying, children inherit not the wealth of their parents, but the way their parents lived. A person who lives with honesty, free of lies, greed, and harm to others, naturally their children will grow within a field of positive energy. In danger, they will find help. When lost, someone will guide them. In business, they will meet honest partners. But if a father lies constantly, if a mother gossips maliciously, if both live in selfish schemes, then no matter how much you invest in education or environment, the child is likely to grow into a troubled, anxious life. Because they were raised in a toxic atmosphere, not through words, but through the energy of daily living. I once knew a successful businessman whose family suffered deeply. His only son was addicted, violent, destructive, and failed rehab multiple times. In our talk, he said, "I never taught him to be bad. I gave him everything, good schools, no lack of anything." Then he sighed as if confessing to himself, "But in the past, my business was full of shady deals. I cheated partners, bent laws, harmed people. I never thought my son would carry the burden of that." I did not judge him, but I believe karma does not come from words, but from example. Children do not learn from what parents say, but from how they live. If you live in lies, your child will know. If you live in cruelty, your child will feel it. And if you live in kindness, virtue, and compassion, then even without words, your child will learn that lesson. In Buddhism, there is the concept of dedicating merit, doing good deeds, and directing the merit to someone. I believe every good act of parents creates an invisible circle of protection for their children. When parents live kindly and think of others, heaven will think of their children. When parents do good without seeking reward, blessings will arrive for their children exactly when needed. Some ask, if parents live well but children still suffer misfortune, why? Blessing is like a river. If past karma is too heavy from previous lives or from the child themselves, it takes time to balance. Sometimes the results show years later, sometimes not until the next generation. Cause and effect never errs. It is only a matter of timing. Deep-rooted virtue is like a great tree. It takes time to blossom and bear fruit. An old saying goes, when parents live kindly, children can walk through storms without being blown away. Because parental virtue is the moral weight that anchors children. A child may be poor, may not excel academically, but if their parents live with virtue, heaven grants them something greater: peace, resilience, and the strength to rise again after failure. Therefore, we do not need to be excessively rich to care for our children, nor overly talented to teach them. The only thing needed is to live well, sincerely, and kindly. Then, children will inherit an invaluable gift, an invisible shield called parental virtue. Some object. I've seen good parents whose children still rebel, fail, even end up in prison. What about karma then? Karma cannot be judged by a single moment, but by a long journey, sometimes beyond one lifetime. There is a saying, blessing or misfortune has no door, only the human heart invites it. Good parents may not see immediate results in their children, but their virtue accumulates and may bear fruit in 3 or 5 generations. Sometimes the child bears heavy past karma, but if parents continue to sow goodness, then even if the child struggles, the grandchildren will prosper. I knew an old professor, now retired. He told me his family was once very poor, his parents illiterate, surviving by digging fields for hire. Yet his mother always helped those who couldn't pay rent, and his father never quarreled even when wronged. Back then, he didn't understand, but as life went on, he realized it was their kindness and tolerance that paved my path. Despite hardship, he always met good teachers, supportive friends, and received scholarships. He said that was the virtue my parents left me. I only walk on the road they prepared. The virtue of parents is the spiritual landscape their children step into. If parents live upright, never trampling others, then even when storms hit, their children have firm ground to rise again. If parents strive forward without complaint, their children will learn resilience. But if parents blame, envy, or speak with bitterness, even a talented child will be dragged down by that energy. I remember the words of a Zen master. Do not ask where the child will go. Look at where the parents are standing. Parents are the first anchor of a child's soul. If parents are steadfast, kind, and compassionate, then even when the child stumbles, they will know how to return, because the moral compass was planted within them from the very start. Once, I witnessed a story at a rural school. A poor student, wearing torn sandals and having only a sweet potato for lunch, studied diligently. He was polite, and everyone loved him. I asked, "Isn't it exhausting to study this hard?" He smiled. My father said, "Our family is poor in money, but not in virtue. As long as I live decently, heaven will help me." That was not a lesson from a textbook, but a life lesson from his hard-working father. That father left no wealth, but he left behind faith and morality, the truest inheritance no money can buy. In contrast, children raised in families full of schemes, where parents chase only profit and competition, often grow up without knowing how to love or respect anyone, not even fearing anything. Their souls lack a moral boundary, a threshold of kindness. Without such a threshold, sooner or later, they fall into the abyss. I once worked with a businessman who ran a large corporation, but whenever he spoke of his son, his eyes grew heavy. I gave him everything, but I couldn't give him a soul that knows respect and humility. Now I realize the one thing I lacked was teaching him through the way I lived. He admitted that when he was young, he once trampled others for gain, teaching his son to be shrewd before teaching him to be good. By the time he realized it, it was too late. I share this not to blame, but for us to reflect together. Blessings are not material wealth, but the invisible foundation that helps children stand firm in life. If you give your child money, you only help them for a stage. But if you give them virtue, you hand them a spiritual passport to walk anywhere without losing their way. Where do these blessings come from? Not from moral preaching, but from concrete actions. One time, not exploiting someone. One time forgiving. One time yielding. One time standing with what is right. Each of those times, though unseen by the world, heaven knows. And heaven never forgets to return goodness. Sometimes not to you, but to your children. The Buddha taught, "Those who sow good seeds, their descendants will harvest fragrant flowers." The ancient Chinese also said, "When ancestors accumulate virtue, descendants will flourish." These words are not empty, but the distilled wisdom of generations. Today, in our material-driven age, we need these roots even more. Because when you plant one seed of virtue today, you not only change your life, but also shape the future of your lineage. There is nothing prouder than leaving your child a pure heart. Nothing more precious than living a life that harms no one. If you live kindly, you don't need to lecture your child much. They will learn from watching you. If you live with compassion, you don't need to pray endlessly. Heaven will recognize it for you. And if you live with virtue, then even if your child walks slowly, they will still walk the right path. As I grow older, I realize more deeply. Being a parent is not just about giving birth and raising a child, but silently sowing blessings for them every day. We cannot walk their whole journey. We cannot shield them forever from storms. But the one thing we can and must do is cultivate virtue. Keep a kind heart. Live decently, so that when we are no longer by their side, heaven still protects them in our place. Today, many parents race to get their children into good schools, high-paying jobs, or marriages with status. They invest in everything, from knowledge to skills. That is not wrong. But if asked, what is the most important thing parents should leave their children? The answer can only be virtue. Virtue is not in bank accounts, not in the house you build or the car you buy. It lies in every action you take when no one is watching. One act of forgiveness, one moment of yielding, one time holding back anger, one silent act of help for a stranger. These small things form the solid foundation for your child's future spiritual life. I once saw a couple selling vegetables at the market. Every day, they woke at 3 a.m., working in the cold, yet never cheated on weight. The wife said, "It's okay to be poor, but never let others buy from us and leave with resentment." They had 2 children, not educated abroad, but they grew up kind, loyal, and respected wherever they went. One became a doctor, loved by patients for dedication. The other became a teacher, admired by students for virtue. People often said, truly, they lived kindly, so their children turned out blessed. On the other hand, I've seen parents teaching their kids to win first, to be clever before kind. At first, the children achieved results, but as they grew, they became restless. Friends distanced themselves, superiors were wary, partners didn't trust them. Because the character of a person, no matter how talented, without virtue is like a mansion built on sand. Sooner or later, it collapses. So what are we leaving for our children? A few plots of land, some savings, a stable job, or a pure heart, a soul that knows compassion, righteousness, and reverence for heaven and earth? Because some things cannot be taught in words, only by the way we live. If you've ever seen your child strangely fortunate, helped by a stranger at the right time, narrowly avoiding misfortune, believe it is not just luck. It may be the blessings you planted or your ancestors cultivated. And if you've ever made mistakes, been angry, selfish, or unjust, then from today, live differently. Not for yourself, but for your children. Karma does not care how you explain it. It quietly records and returns in due time. Living kindly in a world of temptations is not easy, but it is precious. People can take away your assets, titles, or reputation, but not the blessings you silently accumulate. When you sow goodness, you protect not only yourself, but also the future of your children. Life is fleeting and impermanent. Wealth, fame, status, seemingly solid like mountains, are more fragile than we think. Only virtue, blessings, and kindness we plant daily never fade. They stay with you, and they walk with your descendants through their journey. Blessings are the most unique inheritance. They are not written in property deeds, nor listed in accounts. But when your child is in danger, they become the invisible bridge carrying them across. When they stand at a crossroads, they become the light guiding them to the right path. And when you are gone, the blessings you leave will protect them in your stead. You don't need to live a grand life. Just live kindly, righteously, with compassion and a clean heart. Every time you resist greed, hold back anger, or refuse to harm others, you are depositing into your child's bank of virtue. And heaven is the fairest treasurer. If today you struggle, or your child hasn't yet blossomed, don't despair. Maybe the good fruit hasn't ripened yet, but it is maturing in the garden of causes you've sown. Keep living kindly, and one day you'll see light from unexpected places. It might be your child escaping an accident, finding timely help, or standing firm amid traps, and you will realize nothing was by chance. And for that to happen, you only need to begin today. Live with heart, compassion, and virtue. If what I've shared today resonates with you or sparks a memory, a reflection about parents, children, or family virtue, leave a comment below and share your story. Perhaps your story will inspire someone lost. If you find this message valuable and worth spreading, please give it a like so more people may see it. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss upcoming reflections on karma, blessings, and the way of humanity. Thank you for listening until the very end. Thank you for taking the time to reflect with me. I wish you and your family peace, kindness, and a life of sowing good, reaping beauty, and living without regret before heaven and yourself.